Hey everyone, this is Chasing Wisdom and I'm Ashton. And today I'm going to be talking about The Coddling of the American Mind by Greg Lukianoff and Jonathan Haidt. Jonathan Haidt, I'm familiar with from The Happiness Hypothesis and The Righteous Mind, and I highly recommend those books. I may do a review on them later if you guys want them. Just let me know. And he's also been a guest on the Joe Rogan Experience a couple times and the Waking Up with Sam Harris, and I'll leave links to those below. I highly recommend you check out his newest podcast with those two just because he goes more in depth about what's in the book. Jonathan Haidt is a social psychologist from the New York University, and Greg Lukianoff, I'm not too familiar with, honestly. I haven't heard of him until this book, but after reading this book, I think I'm going to check out some of his work just because I really enjoyed the writing style both these authors brought to the book. It's very simple, it's an easy read, especially for people who maybe don't know too much about the subject or maybe just don't enjoy reading as much. And they just make it a very simple type of read. It's almost, I would say, similar to like how Sam Harris wrote the book Lying or Letters to a Christian Nation or Waking Up, where it's very short and to the point and yet still gives a good enough detail to not necessarily just be some randomness that's thrown out there. The book kind of opens up about anti-fragility and why kids need to be exposed to different things so they can learn how to handle them in the future. The example they used was peanut allergy. And what happened was they found a lot of kids who weren't exposed to peanuts at a young age developed peanut allergies compared to kids who were exposed to peanuts at a young age didn't develop peanut allergies. And the whole entire idea is that we're not anti-fragile and that we're not these fragile beings that we need to be careful of every little thing. In fact, some experiences are necessary to help us grow and handle stuff. Then it kind of goes on and talks about what's going on the campuses, like Evergreen, Yale, UC Berkeley, where a lot of these college students that are kind of named the alt-left, and I use quotation marks because I'm not a big fan of labeling or putting people in categories, just because I think you limit a lot of your perspectives and understanding. And also you're going to throw people in categories that don't necessarily belong in there. For example, if I said I'm a proponent of gun rights, then you automatically are going to associate me with conservative or right views. Compared to if I say I'm for gay marriage, then you're going to put me on the left or more liberal views. But what if I'm both? What if I'm for gun rights and liberal or gay marriage? What do you do with me? So again, I don't think it's necessary to put categories, and again, I think it limits a lot of understanding and perspectives. Anyway, so it talks about these behaviors on campuses, limiting free speech and how free speech is in jeopardy, and how some of these speakers aren't allowed to speak on campuses, and students take violence into their own hands almost in some cases, and kind of talks about where it comes from. A lot of it's from the iGen, the internet generation, or Generation Z, my generation. All of those are just different names for them. And so a lot of people thought it was millennials that were causing these problems, but they were doing more research and they found that a lot of these problems didn't start showing up on campuses until about 2013, which millennials were leaving the campus while iGen or Generation Z was going onto campus. And they found, that part of the reason they think a lot of these thought processes are occurring is that my generation is taught to not necessarily interpret intention well. We use emotional reasoning. So let's say, for example, someone bumps into me and it's an accident. Instead of thinking, okay, that person didn't mean it, it's an accident, we are taught to go, that guy did it on purpose. I don't care if he says it's an accident or not. I'm taking it as he did it on purpose. That guy's a dick or an asshole, whatever you want to call him. Anyway, so we're kind of taught to interpret with emotional reasoning and how that's kind of a cognitive distortion, and they talk about different types of cognitive distortions and how we can combat that or help fix some of these problems with something called cognitive behavioral therapy, and they go throughout the whole entire book explaining this. The book also touches on, some of these factors that influence the alt-right, which had to do with some of the college campus and, these alt-right people attacking these campus, things kind of in the political spectrum, and us versus them type of battle. And then it goes on and talks about, different influences that cause both of these behaviors, such as like helicopter parenting, laws, A lot of these social and political movements. My generation grew up in this weird political world where gay marriage was legal, a first black president was elected. There's a lot of these social movements that we start to see that hadn't really been seen before, and it really has changed our views on politics, especially my generation at least. Anyway, and then it goes on towards the end and kind of talks about how to fix some of these problems and some steps we can take. This book overall is important. I think it's a must-read for everyone. There's a lot of benefit regardless if you want to have a side, whether you're a liberal or you're conservative, left, right, whatever you want to call yourself. There's benefit just because you understand the other side and your own side's perspectives. But for me, I read the book just so I can understand. I like to read so I understand what's going on, and this book's perfect for that. I can't recommend it enough. Regardless if you agree with Jonathan Haidt or Greg Lukianoff as an individual, there's a lot of benefit to be gained from this book. And I think if a lot of people read this book, we can get more of an understanding of what's going on politically and socially. And we can kind of take steps to help prevent some of these issues from arising again, and or just bettering life in campus and just life in general, honestly. But I'll leave a link to their podcast that Greg or Jonathan did about his book for Sam and Joe Rogan below, and along with the Amazon link to the Coddling of the American Mind. Again, must read, I think personally. Everyone can benefit from it. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Leave your comments below about how you felt about the book or what you found super important about it. And I just want to say thank you again for choosing this channel. I know there's plenty of channels out there to choose from, and I'm really grateful for the fact that you chose mine and continue to support. I look forward to seeing you guys again.